We are officially live. Good morning, everyone tuning in on the T podcast. We got a great episode for you today. We have, if you can't tell already, two well-known ladies in the community who are well-known news anchors for KLFY and KATC. It's Darla Montgomery and Marcelle Fontenot. We're glad to have them on. So just kind of let you guys know what to expect. We're going to be talking a little bit about their early days, how they got started. I have a little bit of information. Of course, there's bios that you can find online. So I have a little bit of that information, but I really want to hear it straight from them. And that's going to be the fun part, because I don't want to know everything. I don't, I kind of read a little bit, but I'll let them introduce themselves. So first up, Marcelle, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of tell people a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Marcelle Fontenot with KATC. For those of you who were looking for us at 11 o'clock, part of our tardiness is my fault. I'm a mother of two kids who I did not realize when we booked this date that they were out of school. So thank you for your patience. I've been at KATC 17 years, believe it or not. I know it's crazy to say it, but little girl from Opelousas, Louisiana, and graduated from high school there, went to Southern University, majored in mass communications, and started working at TV3 now longer ago than I would like to admit. But it's been a pleasure being a part of this community and having my roots here, just like Darla. It's fantastic. News anchors all over everywhere do a job, and luckily we get to do a job in the community that we've known and loved forever. So good to be here today. Awesome.
Good to have you. And Darla, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure thing. I'm Darla Montgomery, and of course I am news anchor at KLFY TV10. I am celebrating 30 years in the business.
You go, girl.
In the business. So since 1992, I've been with KLFY. And like Marcelle, a small hometown girl, we come from the same roots. And I just want to echo what she said, how important it is to be able to do what you love and to actually do it from home. This is what we've always known. It does not mean that we stay here, because obviously we travel with our jobs, we travel with our families. There's always a story somewhere. And so we share that. We bring this back with us when we do travel. But the good news is that we were able to stay here. And of course I attended schools throughout Acadiana. I went to several schools in my time. One experience that is truly unforgettable is Academy of the Sacred Heart. I attended that school from the 5th through the 11th grade, and that even deepened my passion for journalism, because I met girls from all over the world, and I wanted to know about the world, and I got to know a little bit about the world through them. So it was just amazing. And then, of course, attended UL, majoring in broadcast journalism. Maria Placer is my mentor, and she is the person who gave me the opportunity. I applied several places locally, around the state, around the country, and she is the one who said yes.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. And you both are from Opelousas area, right?
We both are. Yeah.
That is wild. Having both of opposite networks. Both of the news anchors for 5, 6, and 10 are from Opelousas. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of meant to be, it sounds like.
Yeah, our families are connected. Darla's mother was the librarian at my high school. And when I was applying at Channel 3, I had an interview that was set up, and I called her. I took a chance, and I'm like, oh, God, I don't know if she's going to answer. But I called the newsroom. I'm like, hi, can I speak to Darla Montgomery, please? And they're like, hold on. And, I'm like, hi, I'm Marcelle Fontenot. And I said, I'm from Opelousas, and I know your mother, and I have an interview tomorrow. And just, I'm looking for any guidance. And gracefully, Darla was like, listen, our news director at the time, she's like, you need to be yourself and be direct. And, and she guided me. And a few months later, there we were working at the same station. So, yeah, hometown girls sharing a passion for the same career.
That's awesome. So you guys worked at the same station for a short time.
We did.
Yeah. And what station was that? Was it KLFY?
It was KATC.
KATC.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I had a brief stint there as well. At the time that happened, I needed a change. Like Marcelle, I was a mom who had a very demanding career and had 2 children, and I needed a break. My husband was in law enforcement. We were 2 ships in the night. Life was going by very quickly.
Right.
And needed a break, and so I did take that break, and it lasted a year before KATC called and said, are you still interested in news? Would you still like to do that sort of thing? Their anchor was moving on. And in fact, I think she moved out of country, actually. And so I said, yes. We talked. I said yes, and I was back in the business before I knew it. So it was, maybe not even a year that I was out of the business. And so, yes, KATC, and then, like Marcelle said, she came along, and then things were moving fast once again, and I had contract negotiations with KLFY, and then I was out the door. So our time together was short, but as you can see, that did not impact us because we've been together ever since. We're friends, we're colleagues, we're almost family.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
We used to have these meetings. You know, I was a reporter, she was the anchor, and we would meet. You know, we'd come in and you go and get ready for broadcast time, and you get your face done. And so when Darla was doing makeup, it was like right before deadline time for me. And there were days I'd go in that bathroom and I'd sit in there like, what am I doing? How do I do this? And it was those conversations that got me out that bathroom, back at that desk, writing that story and getting it done. So I am not bashful about how she has impacted my career. Darla's time at KATC was a gift for me. And I have said publicly before, when the transition came, her moving on and back to KLFY was the best thing that ever happened in my career because I started anchoring right after that. So thank you again as a colleague and friend.
That's awesome. I mean, so do you guys regularly get together at all, or do you just see each other on TV?
Regular.
I don't get to watch. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't.
Yes, we can't.
We're on TV at the same time.
Yeah,
so
they
I don't
can't.
get to see her every now and then. During a commercial break, if I run back into the newsroom and the monitors are on, and I'll see, ooh, that color looks good on her, I'll text her. Or if it's a tough news day, we'll text one another like, hey, just hang in there. When we try and get together every now and then, as often as we can. Schedules are nuts, but you know, our jobs make us competitors, but life makes us friends. And we work for 2 different television stations. However, we don't have this wall built between the 2 of us. We are 2 women, 2 Black women, mothers, you know, like we have a lot in common. And so, yeah, nobody understands what the job is like but someone else who does it.
Yeah.
And so we need one another just, you know, to lean on sometime, to pat on the back, even if it's from a distance, even if it's from down the street, it still makes a huge impact.
That's awesome. Well, before we get started, just want to let you guys know that if you didn't know already, you're watching The Tea. All right, so before we get started any farther, I want to let you guys know about our sponsors. And if you haven't already known about our sponsors, they are the Music Academy of Acadiana, Acadiana's top choice for music lessons in piano, guitar, voice, drums, violins, all that good stuff. They're locally owned by Tim Benson, who's a University of Louisiana Lafayette Music School graduate. So it's a locally founded company, got about 500 students in and out each month that are enrolled. So very well established system, and Tim Benson, he's a local musician as well, so he's all about the arts. And so ultimately their company's goal is to make music lessons fun, educational, and it helps foster the next generation of musicians and creative thinkers. You can check them out at musicacademyacadiana.com or on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. And then we also have our tech sponsor, who is The Orchard. The Orchard is Acadiana's only local authorized Apple service provider. So if you need an Apple product fixed the right way, the Apple way, I guess you would say, where your keyboard would work, if you change your screen, they'll do that. They have to follow all the guidelines that Apple has set in place. So it's almost like as if you were going straight to the Apple Store themselves. So you can check them out at theorchardstores.com or their physical locations next to Buffalo Wild Wings on Ambassador, and then their newest location, which is in Karen Crow by Super One Foods. Great local company as well. Check them out, and we appreciate their support. All right, so kind of going to the spot where you mentioned, supporting each other in news days and all that good stuff. I know that you can have some tough news days, especially in today's news cycle. So I kind of wanted to know, what is some of the I will start with, I guess, the heartaches, and then I want to finish this little part with the joy. So what are some of the heartaches of being a news anchor just in general? And Darla, if you want to reposition your mic, you can.
Sure. Or I can sit up again.
It doesn't
I was getting quite comfortable.
I know.
That's good. No, and you're totally fine to do it.
So heartaches. It's tough for me to think about that because, like I said, Marcelle mentioned, you said 17 years now, so 30 years in. So it'll be a little different perspective here, because at this point I'm counting blessings. I'm looking back on what I've accomplished and who I've met and how my life has been touched. If you'd asked me this at her age and maybe even a little younger, I'm sure I could have listed off a long list of things, but my children are grown. I have a grandson. I think what stands out most in my mind is the sacrifice, the time of family. So, but there is such a benefit to that, because you make those moments that you do have really count. You live in those moments, and it is such a blessing. So the difficulties, if you want to talk about being a woman in the industry at the time I entered, being a black female at the time I entered, yes, all of those things that come with that, and there's the glass ceiling that you're constantly trying to break, but there were such strong women in my path, like I mentioned, Maria Placer, Blue Rolfes, who went before me, Agnes Darrow, who was at KATC, and then I looked to the men too, as well. So it's what typical people face in every industry when you are trying to succeed, excel, rise above. So you make those negatives into positives, and that's what I did. I used everything that I could possibly use to move forward, and in a very positive way. So I didn't hold on to the negatives, if you will.
Yeah, it's heavy. I will say, like Darla mentioned, time. We are public servants, and I never thought about what we do as public service until not long ago. I think it was last year's hurricane coverage, and someone walked up to me and said, "Thank you for your service." And I was, and she's like, "You're a public servant, Marcelle."
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. And because here we are, people are at home or evacuating, and we're at work. But it's a commitment we've made. So time is absolutely of the essence. Also, our jobs are heavy. What we do every day, we don't get to talk about. We try and tell as much good news as we can, but unfortunately, it's not a reality in the world that we live in. Times are tough. The world is a tough place. And our jobs are to inform the public on what's happening in your world. And many days, that's not all good. And we have to figure out and tell stories about things that are impacting people's lives in a very negative way. Trauma and just, death, and you name it. There we are, informing the masses about what's going on. And it absolutely gets heavy. You try to take the emotion out of it, but we're human beings. So not every story we read them, we write them, we find out the information on them. But every now and then, more days than not, you'll get one that just hits you. And for me, I have to find time to break away from it. So Monday through Friday, I'm all in. But if I'm off on a weekend, like Darla said, getting back to time, I do my best. I will catch up on Monday when I get back. But mentally, from a space of just family time and being around people and finding joy. And not that our jobs aren't joyful, and I know that's the second part of the question. Not that we don't have joy, because I would think we both will admit that we have talked to some amazing people in this community about wonderful things. But the heaviness is a reality of what we do every day. And, we have bad days too.
Yeah.
We have days where our days are hard, just like everybody else on this planet. And we have to get on camera and do our jobs. And you deal with it. You suppress it. You do whatever you have to. There are days I can tell you, you might not be feeling your best. I'm bending over, putting my head down on commercial break, but that standby comes and I'm back and ready to roll, So that too, we're humans who live our lives in the public.
Yep.
In front of everyone else. It doesn't shut off when the cameras stop rolling. It happens when we're out and about in the community. And it's a wonderful thing to actually, it's one thing to look at a camera. It's another thing to look at faces. So
yeah,
seeing people in public is not something we discourage. I want you to come over and say hello, and I want to talk. But we're dealing with and battling through and pushing through just like everyone else.
That is refreshing to hear, because I didn't expect that. I knew you were humans, but I guess to know that since you guys are, visible, highly visible people, that you're welcoming to people coming up to you outside of your workplace, because your thought process, if you were trying to be a respectable human, is that perhaps those people probably get approached a lot. And why would you want to make their time away from the camera feel a certain way?
Well, we understand that we are a part of your family to some degree. We're in your homes when you're getting in at the end of the workday, when you're having dinner, before you go to sleep at night. There we are. There the two of us are with our co-anchors on our stations talking to you. And we're talking to you at that point. We know we're talking to hundreds of thousands of people. However, in your household, we're talking to you. So that comes with the territory. We are a part of your family to some degree. And family is welcoming. Family is love. Family. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Darla will definitely agree. Not everybody who approaches us is happy with what we do.
Right, and they're very opinionated. And it's so funny because when you think about it from the aspect, we are broadcasters. So broad, just take that part of the word, means that we have to communicate and relate to everyone. So it could be the person who is on the streets to the person who is a Rhodes Scholar, and we have to talk about things that matter to the broad spectrum. We have to present it in an unbiased way. We also have to be very welcoming so that you feel that you even want to look, listen, stop, look, and listen to what it is that we're saying. And so when you talk about meeting people in person, like she's saying, at the gas station, at the grocery store, you just never know where that next great story is and how far-reaching it could be. People are just, we're in this business, number one, because we love people.
Okay.
Number two, because there is such a responsibility in what we do. That information she's talking about, Marcelle's talking about, it's life-saving, many times, especially when we have catastrophe, hurricanes, disaster, important information to get out to people so that you know. And sometimes it's not a major event like that. It could be a life-saving tip. We've done stories where, you hear them every now and then, a house explodes because there's a gas leak or whatever it is. And it could be a gas leak within a home, or it could be something wrong with the actual system, the infrastructure with the area you live in. But whatever it is, that little nugget of information that you remember, oh, that's right, I wasn't supposed to leave the rice out all night because you know what? It develops spores, and you know what? That could be dangerous. And I'm mentioning that because I just read that and I just posted that the other day.
I saw that actually.
and you know, and it was a reminder for me because we take things for granted. We all store our food away, but sometimes we wake up, oh, it wasn't hot in the house last night.
It's fine.
It's fine. I can put that rice in there, and then the next day your kid, has a tummy ache and they're throwing up, and you're like, I don't know
happened?
what happened. It's such a responsibility, and that passion for helping, for listening first, I should say, and then for helping. That is why we do what we do. And I was fortunate to live in a house with first responders. My husband being in law enforcement, my daughter now being EMT paramedic. It is service. And they made me realize, Marcelle, too, because I never looked at it as I was in a public servant. And they said, Mom, you are a PSA, public service announcement. That's what you do for a living. And when that perspective, when I finally saw that and understood that, I had an even deeper appreciation and understanding of what it is that I called my calling, because that's what this is. It's a calling.
And people are our joy.
Yes.
I mean, there are lots of joys about what we do, but at the end of the day, it's about people. And there's no greater joy than something as simple as someone coming over and saying thank you, or even talking about, hey, I listened to you last night and I heard this, and my family X, Y, or Z. Or sometimes people need to know that someone's listening.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm willing to, I get it. And the best part of this job is people. And the days go on and they're so fast paced and they move so quickly and there's so much content in them. But there are moments where you stand at the desk or you sit at your desk and have to remember, I'm talking to someone. I am impacting someone. Is being impacted by what we're saying. And it's why we keep doing what we do.
So I'm glad you guys touched on the joys, obviously, because I didn't have to go there. You obviously wanted to go straight there. The heartaches are one thing, but you guys find joy in your jobs because of people and the communications and the connections that you make from that. But do you ever just get obviously I know you get wore out, but whenever you have to sit at your desk and on the prompter comes a story that you really just don't want to say. There's got to be something that you just don't want to mention, but you have to because of news. Is there any story that you can think of on the top of your mind over the past 20, 30 years that was one of those stories where you just really don't feel like reporting on?
The political stories.
The political stories. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's tough because people, as you well know, and we've seen just over the last, few years, last two elections, presidential elections, are very, very opinionated. And so whether we're just reporting the facts from the story, we're choosing sides. We're biased. We're this. We're that. Well, you mentioned that candidate, but you didn't mention this candidate, or you did. So that sort of stuff. I have to do it, so I do it. But I anticipate the fallout from it, and it's not fair. We have a job to do, and once that job is done, and as long as it is fair and balanced, and both sides are being represented, then we've done our job, and that's as far as I personally, professionally go with anything political.
Absolutely, I agree with you there. We live in a time. And in a society now where, unfortunately, people aren't always as open to listening. I find for me, the art of conversation is gone, and patience. We as a society aren't as patient as we used to be. Right. So, we get blamed for lots of things. Is every story perfect? No, but nothing in life is. And we get calls about, well, ABC said this. Well, I don't work for ABC National. I work in Lafayette, Louisiana. Local media gets blamed for lots of things that national media does.
And we should call them.
We should, right.
Can't you call them and pick up,
And it's no. That's not how it works. But it is, you know, it's a different, we're a different society. There's lots of divisiveness now on any number of issues. And my thought process is mine, and there's nothing you can do to, I'm not trying to sway your opinion. I'm not trying to sway your view. I am telling you, this is what's going on. This is what this official has to say about it. This is what that one has. You draw your own conclusion. That's it.
Yeah.
That is it. That's it. That is my job. And you know, people get mad because there are two sides. Well, that's reality.
I know.
Not everyone has to agree on every subject all the time. And that's okay. That's what, you know, we as human beings in this country do. We don't have to agree, and that's fine. But that doesn't mean I should disrespect you or you should disrespect me for my view. For me, another thing that's often hard to report on are violent acts against children. And maybe it's because I know at home I've got two little ones sitting there waiting. When we are standing at the desk, and I think you would agree with this, we get into a zone and you do the job. But there's oftentimes, you know, the next story's coming and the things that you don't want to have to say, but you do it. You get through it and you push the emotion aside and get through it.
You have to. Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to when I said I've been in with first responders and law enforcement, because my husband had to deal with a career where he didn't know whether he'd be home that, you know, coming home that night. So it was a good training, I guess, for lack of a better word, way to approach my job, having that firsthand experience with a first responder. But in addition to the stories that we don't like to do, and another thing I think that viewers have a misconception about is that we make these decisions,
right,
of what we're doing, and there, you know, our stations are owned by corporations.
Yep.
And we have the chain of command. We have people above us who make the decisions and choices of content and things that we're going to cover. Our job is to present it in the as broadcasters, the most understandable, reaching everyone, relatable information, fair information. Like she said, both sides of the story, you form your opinion.
And I will say, you know, we've been in rooms together. We do have conversations as staff, as new staff. And neither one of us is very shy about how we feel about what we're doing that day and how we're presenting it and making sure we have all the questions answered. But that's a duty as well. So what you see, you know, sometimes we get shot down.
Yes.
You know, not because
Darla told no.
Yes. Not because Darla or Marcelle thinks it should be this way. It happens. That does not happen. However, I will tell you that because of people, getting back to that, if there's something I think we're missing, or if there's something that I think we don't have enough information on, and that's what we do as a staff. We meet and have conversation about this particular story, and we dissect it. We break it apart into as many pieces as necessary to make sure that when you, the viewer at home, get it as this one concise piece of information, that we have done all of the legwork and all of the back work to make sure that there aren't huge gaps and that there aren't. Now, things develop, and that's something else. Things develop and change. What we know today, we're going to know some more tomorrow. So what I give you today isn't the end all be all.
Right.
And if I give you something new tomorrow because something has changed, doesn't mean I kept something from you day one. It just is an evolution of the process of things happening and of storytelling.
I think that's just perception of people's lack of knowledge of how just news works. And sometimes you have a developing story, and your jobs, especially the companies that you work for, their job is to make sure they stay on top of news as fast as possible, whilst trying to be as accurate as possible. And sometimes that's hard to do. Have you ever had a moment like just and you kind of alluded to that, is when people disagree with you and they approach you, like, is it almost like they're taking it personal and directly towards you?
Absolutely.
Remember, we're part of their family. We're there at dinner. We're there at bedtime. So absolutely, it's It's personal.
It's very personal.
It really is. And whether it's over the phone or whether it's in person, we take the time to listen. Now, let me pause there. You can't call me or approach me cursing me out. You cannot disrespect me as a human being. You cannot disrespect me professionally for what I do every day. But if you're willing, even in your angst and disgust about whatever the subject is, to have a conversation with me, then we can dialogue. But I am not dealing with that kind of thing. And luckily, there haven't been many situations, not in person for sure, over the phone. There have been a couple phone calls I've hung up on because I'm not doing that. But yeah, it's personal for people often when that is not the intent.
Absolutely.
That's not what we do. We don't intend to attack you personally, and people often feel like they're attacked.
Wow. Yeah, and obviously you agree with that because you probably had your own experiences too. I mean,
yeah, and like she said, mostly it's mostly phone calls. Look, our job, we've said this, it just so happens to happen in front of a couple of 100,000 people.
a couple
Every
hundred.
day.
Okay, every day. But one thing that I guess keeps a good journalist grounded and just with their hand on the pulse of the community and really feeling for the people we serve is to realize that what we do is no different than what you have to do. Mm. We all get up in the morning. We have families. We have jobs. We have responsibilities, and that comes with whatever experience we had that morning. We have opinions. We have things that happen to us. We have things that will affect our mood. Again, it just so happens that you may be at your desk or like you are right now behind this microphone where people aren't, having to see your face and what you dealt with or what you're bringing with you to work. So we're all in the same boat is how I look at it. And so that makes me your friend on the desk. You're her friend. She's your friend on the desk because we come from a humble position of understanding that we're all human.
Yeah.
And that is what's most important, first and foremost. And what we're seeing in the country right now, as she said, these are some difficult times. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of, things going on. And it doesn't matter what side of the political fence you're on. It doesn't matter what color skin you are. It's if we all just think about the fact, and this is how I personally have always approached anything in my life, including my job, is to understand that we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have opinions. If we get away from this me, mine society that I see coming through a lot, where we talk about certain people, groups of people feel entitled, and it's because they're white or black people are this way and this person is that way. I've always just seen people as people, because first of all, okay, I had 3 strikes against me already, so I'm short. I'm a woman, and I'm black. That's according to society. Okay, yeah. I'm just saying. And so I have these things going. So I'm going to do like a duck, and I'm just going to quack a little bit louder, because that's what ducks do. I mean, what are they going to do, slap you with their feather? That won't hurt. It won't stop anything. So just understanding from just that very basic thing about being human, that is what brings to the desk, the news desk, that realization or that reality and listening. You've heard her say that word about 6 times this morning. I counted, and I've said it too. And so we listen first, and then we make sure that we are one answering all of the questions, so that when you have watched a news story, that you're not saying, well, what about this or what about that, or did he or she say what I think they said, and well, that doesn't sound right. So factual, integrity, all of that plays a huge, huge role. And the passion, you don't have to fake that on air. Mm-hmm. If you've had a bad day and if a story affects you, I've cried on the air because I have children.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And children are often the big story of the day, unfortunately. And it's really sad what happened to them. The elderly, The part of our society, our world that can't defend themselves are often the tragic stories of the day. And so, yes, circling back to what Marcelle said, it is very heavy, but that's when you turn to your family, you exercise, you ride your bike, you listen to music, whatever you can pull that inspiration and you pull yourself out of it. So, yes, our job, we do talk about a lot of sad things. Our work involves that, but we find ways to pull yourself out of that, and it'll be that one person who actually comes up to you, and they don't talk work. They just want to say, thank you for the job you do. You do a great job. And maybe a conversation will start, maybe it won't. Look, I'm typically late for everything. So it's because I tell people I do live in the moment.
Yeah.
So if I'm stopped at the gas station and I'm going to be late for work, I'm going to talk to that fellow who just said that he couldn't afford to get his medication and tell me the story why. And so I promise you in a few days we're going to have a story on the air about how to get the help that that person, because now that one person, he's representing hundreds of people.
Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
All right, so we did just mute the mic, so we had to mention something.
Quick adjustment.
And adjust my mic because it wasn't
Technical
close enough.
difficulties. We know about those.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I go through some things. I mean, even though I'm not as visible as you guys are, I still am running something that has a ton of visibility. And it's crazy to think about this, but I've posted things before that in no way, shape, or form is political. I try not to post anything political. I don't have no reason to. I'm posting about construction and new businesses. But there are people out there whose sole purpose in life, according to their purpose, is to make everything political. And talking about, for example, Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, I mean, they won't fix the roads. The city, it's about taxes, which ultimately ends up being political. Or
I was about to say, what's wrong with the chicken? We love Chick-fil-A.
Look, it's the Lord's chicken, as they say. But things have been made political. I've been called a liberal on my page, and I'm not. I mean, I don't care if you are or not, but it was because some scooters came to downtown.
I remember that.
Some e-scooters. And I was excited about it. I love technology. I love new things. And for whatever reason, me filming a live video of the scooters and how they work and all that good stuff apparently made me look like a spoiled, non-disciplined liberal in the community. I'm like, ma'am. I believe it was a ma'am. I was like, first of all, I was disciplined as a child. I'm more conservative, but what does that have to do with the scooters? Like, I private messaged her because I didn't want to do that directly.
Yes.
And most of the time, I'm not bashful in the comment section. I fire back, but I was like, this lady, I don't know what she thinks I am, but she was totally wrong. And why would she even go there?
A friend of mine posted this. I have to interject.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
This reminds me of this post. He posted a rock. He said, "This is a rock. To prove to you that people will argue about anything, this is a rock." And sure enough, there was a comment. Are you sure it's a rock or is it? And people started taking sides, and it was just interesting to see that it's. You're absolutely right. People will make anything political.
It gets to a point sometimes, like election coverage. Marcelle's wearing red.
Oh my gosh.
I wear red a lot.
It's your color.
It's one of your station color, and it's one of my colors. Thank you, Darla.
It is.
And you can draw whatever conclusion you want about this red dress, but I'm wearing it and deal with it. Here's the thing. If you don't like my red dress, you have the power to pick up the remote control and change the channel.
Change the channel, yeah. Like,
I'm not gonna go back and forth with you because
people
I wore a
read
red
too
dress
much.
on election night, like,
Yeah.
or a blue dress, or whatever it might. I'm not thinking about that, and unfortunately, that is part of what we deal with. You know, any little thing, it's just like, really, this is what you're focusing on.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm discussing here.
People worry too much about some of those things. It's ridiculous, and to even read into a dress color, like, oh my gosh, she's
On
a
an election
Trumpian.
night,
You would not believe.
Election night.
Some, you mentioned that you'll go back and forth in comments. I do not.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good for you guys not to.
Well, we can't.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
And I don't have the
and we
energy.
choose not to. Right.
I don't have the energy.
Right.
Look,
No.
I tell people, after I make a big post, I have to set aside 2 to 3 hours for that day to
comment.
police the comments. And I don't, and people always wonder if I delete comments or anything like that or hide them. It's got to be really severe for me to do that. I let people's ignorance shine. I'm like, you know what? If they want to do that, I'm going to comment something to it. And sometimes, look, I've made some pretty ignorant comments, and I'm like, you know what? Delete that. But you know, because I'm human. But I'm trying to be witty, and you know, you guys probably would love to make comments, but you know, at the end of the day, once that cycle is over with, that subject, that it all changed. There was no reason to even comment on it, and I have to sometimes tell myself that.
Yeah, silence is golden. Sometimes.
Yes.
And we, like you said, we have to be, because we have to remain unbiased, and so we can't pick a side. That's not our job. Our job is information. It is strictly providing information.
Yeah.
So
okay.
if we had our own segments where we were a commentator, right, you know, that would work. But in this case, we don't.
Yeah. I'm going to mute the mic one more time just to ask something personal, just to make sure it's okay. So bear with me. All right. So, unmuted now. So what I muted the mic for was to ask Darla if she wanted to talk about her medical scare. I don't remember how long ago it was. It was more than
2008.
2008.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
March.
So it was
At 9:59. March 12th, I think it was, and I might be off a day or two. I'm horrible with dates and numbers.
So this was a very live and public medical emergency. Like, I remember it happening. I'm like, what in the world is going on? And this is before social media really started kind of kicking off. Mm-hmm. I think MySpace was the only major thing. But
oh gosh,
I know.
I forgot that even existed.
Right. So, kind of in the shortest form that you want, kind of what happened there.
Okay, so without warning, I didn't have any health issues prior. I wasn't aware of any. Just sat on the desk like we always do. Of course, I actually did run down the hall because I was a little,
Were you running late?
Late, yes, and so sat down at the desk, and Chuck was, of course, already there because he's a man of time. And I felt strange. I felt something strange, and didn't feel well. And it was just that quick. There was a rush of like warmth behind my head, and then an explosion in my head.
An explosion?
That's what it felt like.
Wow.
And I collapsed on the floor. Chuck did grab my arm and lowered me down. He just kept me awake. He would not. I wanted to go to sleep. It was an immense pain. It was a lot of pain.
Yeah. It's okay.
It was. People ask me often, what did it feel like? And so I have to explain to them, if you've ever been at the dentist and they're working and you feel that nerve, so imagine that times 1,000.
Oh man.
Because what happens in an aneurysm, I had a ruptured aneurysm, is the blood, of course, starts traveling in your brain, and your brain, thank you, sweetheart. You're welcome. Your brain is your center. I mean, that's where all you feel everything. And so the pain was so great. That's the tears that that I'm feeling right now because that's something you don't forget. I would not wish that on anyone, ever. Enough to scare me from going out to that news desk again, because that was a question, is how are you going to deal with the anxiety of going back to the scene of that, to where it actually happened? And it was okay. It's talking about it, it's reliving it. But when I'm on that desk, just like Marcelle said, we enter a zone.
Yeah.
We're focused because we are the last gatekeeper of the information before it gets out of the gate. So it has to be right. So even when it's wrong and prompter, our brains are we're not just reading. And that is something I would like to stress to people when they ask me, we're not just reading. If that's the case, anyone could be a news anchor. We have to digest everything that we're regurgitating, if you will, and it has to be accurate. If it's not right, we have to have emotion with it. We can't smile while we're talking about, and you will see a lot of new reporters make that mistake because they're so focused on, I have to make sure, being an anchor or being a reporter, I have to, have a certain face on air. And they'll, yes, and today there was, and they're smiling. No. You're talking about an accident.
Oh.
There's no smiling so there's so many components that you have to focus on. So as experienced anchors, we are definitely in that zone of making sure, even while we're reading on air, that it is the very best that we can deliver, that we can give to you. So, wow, I went over there quickly. Look, I didn't want to cry anymore. I didn't want to talk about it anymore, no, but it taught me a lot about life, and I understood a lot about life before then, but that living in the moment, oh gosh, I did that even more so.
But you're doing well now, right?
Yes, I am.
No, I mean, I'm impressed that you've managed to stay on air for as long as you have now after that, because I don't remember how old I was. I was not obviously the age I am now. So my maturity level was different, but I was like, I don't think I'd be able to do it. Like people were wondering, like, is she going to come back?
Yeah. Right. So people have asked if I had residual, because obviously, I mean, it's a stroke. And so I thank God the only thing that I did lose were 2 senses. I can't smell and I can't taste. Yeah.
Seriously. Right to this day.
Right now. Yes.
How do you...
You
figure it out.
You do. I was so grateful that I wasn't, I was able to still walk. I didn't, the worst that could happen was I could have died. And that I can see and that I can hear. And so all of those senses, all that's heightened, of course, just like people say.
Yeah.
When you hear someone who loses a part of themselves, and that living in the moment, so now I'm even more tardy than I was before. Because I can't help it.
Okay, we love her for it.
At least I can admit.
That's right. You know what? Accountability.
I embrace my faults.
You know that about yourself. We love you for it.
You mentioned it when we started the podcast, that she was part of the reason, because of her children. She didn't realize they would be at home today.
Whoops.
And so she says that she was like, but I was also tardy because I walked in after her with the 2 children. I don't have 2 children at home, but I was on the phone.
Yes,
in the moment. In the moment.
Like, I'm pretty chronically late too for everything, and sometimes I don't even have a reason. Sometimes my wife tells me I'm bad at time management, and I'm like, I think I can get everywhere.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
I know that.
You think you get it all done in this amount of time.
Yeah, and I think we're building a house in Carencro, but currently living in Lafayette. So before, whenever we were in Carencro, it takes about 30 minutes to get from there to the center of town. You're lucky if you get 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And now we're living in an apartment complex right in the middle of town, and I feel like I can get everywhere in 5 minutes.
Of course.
Well, that's not reality. You're driving in Lafayette. I'm sorry. It's not.
It's not. I can get places quicker,
right.
But I tell myself, I got time. Like, now it's like I pushed my 30-minute time to like a 15-minute outlook. I got 15 minutes to get there, and then I feel like I'm rushing every time in life. I'm like, why am I always rushing? And it's
It's
because
time
my time management. Yeah.
Yeah, same here, and I accept that. I understand that.
And we live in a time where we're trying to do 900 things
Yeah.
in 1 hour.
Yeah.
You know, you got your device and you're functioning somewhere and you're trying to get it all done in this amount of time. And time's like, yeah, no, I'm still ticking. Still going.
It's crazy. Okay, so we talked about your experience with that medical emergency. Now I want to flip it to something that I think Marcelle may be able to help me with. And if not, I'll kind of read a little bit about it. The name Acadiana.
What?
The name Acadiana?
The name Acadiana.
That was said to be because of a typing mistake at KATC many years ago.
Correct. So
What?
the name Acadiana, did you know that the name Acadiana is according to the internet, Wikipedia, coined by KATC?
No.
You did not know that?
It was a typing error. This is the story I know. Now,
Yes, go ahead.
Again, this is only what I know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. I didn't type it.
Well, it was like, according to Wikipedia, like 1960.
Yes, it was
1960.
decades ago, eons ago.
I wasn't even born yet.
So it said that the word Acadiana was a typing mistake in something that was written by an employee at KATC. And then somebody was like, oh, kind of works.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
These years later. So that's what I know too. I don't, again, I was not there.
Yeah. So I will pull up the
But
Wikipedia.
that goes to show you, not to cut you off, that goes to show you if it indeed was a mistake.
Meant to be.
Like look at this mistake that became a coined just moniker for an entire area and people, and how beautiful is that?
Yeah.
Oops, I didn't mean to, and people in their stories. There's a story. It was a mistake, which we often don't give people much grace for anymore.
No, that I have.
And it has
never heard
changed
that.
the area.
Yeah.
We live in.
It's a pretty interesting thing. You can search Google, obviously, and just type in, let me see what just type in Acadiana on Wikipedia, and I don't even know this word, but it's in there, the second or third paragraph. But yeah, so essentially, so there's two schools of thought. One of them believed that somebody in Acadia Parish, a local newspaper, Crowley Daily Signal, coined the term in reference to Acadia Parish. But the more fun story, the more believable one, in my opinion, is that KTC had coined the term Acadiana back in the early 1960s, giving it obviously a broader name for Acadia, the area. So the story was, let's see, okay, so 1963, the ABC affiliate received an invoice, I guess, incorrectly addressed to Acadiana television station. So I think it was probably Acadian TV station or Acadian Television Corporation. And so apparently someone made like you said, a typing error and wrote Acadiana because it rolls off the tongue
like
a little bit.
Like an A on the end.
Yeah.
So it was Acadian, and then there was an A.
Yep. And they added an A.
Because
Which is an easy mistake to make,
Absolutely.
and a mistake that has stuck with us forever. And I want to say it is KLFY that had the "Hello Acadiana" song. Is that
right?
so? That song is stuck in my head, and
Well,
Well,
you
this
grew
is just
up
so
here.
fascinating because I worked for the Tourist Commission, the LCV Center for years, for 3 years. And I remember in the 80s, this was in the mid to late 80s, is when the big campaign came about to really get Lafayette on the map. It was on the map, but on a bigger map, on the world stage. And so I was there to witness and watch when the crawfish became this, the big symbol, and there was a huge billboard placed on I-10 as you come into Lafayette with the big crawfish.
yes,
And there was a major push, and that's when they really defined the 8 parishes of Acadiana and labeled Cajun country. But it's just interesting because that story never came out at that time. And then, of course, Channel 10 being the first television station here and using the term Acadiana, that I have never heard that before, and that's why I'm really fascinated by that, because and I love when we do the history about, Black History Month or history about this area even, and these hidden gems come out about our area, that stories that you've never heard. But that is quite interesting, because I tell a lot of young folks all the time, they're saying, well, when did this become Cajun country? And I said pretty much the 80s, but the ancestry stems back to the 1800s, when the Acadians were banished from Nova Scotia, and that is a fascinating story in itself as well.
Yeah.
But that is Acadie. This is so cool.
Well, it's definitely an urban legend. I will just call it that, because who's around now that is
Who can say?
Could validate.
Right. I mean,
And
I'm
who's
pretty
the
sure.
employee?
Yeah.
Right. Like, who's the employee that received the package or had made the error? Whatever happened there. Yeah, it's quite an interesting story. And anytime somebody talks about Acadiana and ask about the name, I'm like, from what I understand.
This is what happened.
You got to preface by making sure.
But you know what?
It's my understanding.
It's a story that's kind of fun to tell. So I'm surprised that you didn't know.
I'm just saying, it is so fascinating. I've worked in the tourism industry. I've worked at Channel 10, which is the first station, and that wasn't discussed at the LCVC. It wasn't discussed at, and I've covered and interviewed so many folks who have, the history. I'm trying to think of the guy's name from, he's from Crawley. No. He had a studio in Scott. Oh, I hate when this happens. Give me a moment.
It's okay.
Artist. Fabulous man. But knew everything there was to know about Acadiana and his Cajun ancestry. Never mentioned. Like, no one. And just assumed that it came from the Acadians, because that's where they were from, in Acadie in Nova Scotia.
I mean, who's to know where the term truly came from, if it was from the KTC era or not. Either way, it's one of those stories
cool.
that,
It's cool. That's what I.
It's a fun story. You're like, you know what, that sounds like it could be the thing. Like, who's to tell you that it's wrong? I mean, because everywhere in history, as far as you can Google, they use the term Acadiana. But as you know, the internet is only maybe 30 years old. God, I'm 36. So, it's in that range, 30, 35 years.
Right.
So everything there is placed, after, of course, 1963, whenever that happened.
After
so you never know.
Happening.
Yeah. Just one of those little fun tidbits I thought would be interesting to bring up. So I guess we're getting kind of close to an hour now. So I want to.
See, it flew by.
It did.
Yeah. I kind of want to know just where do you guys see yourselves, in the near to distant future, whichever one you can wrap your head around the most. Do you see yourself staying on news as long as Blue Rofus because she was on for a while, like
I'm trying to remember how many years she put in. I think it was close to 40, over 35 for sure.
Yeah, and then you said you've been 30, for 30. Yeah,
is this March? We're February.
We're almost in March.
Tuesday. Happy Mardi Gras.
Yeah,
it'll be March 1st.
March 1st. Yes.
Yeah,
so
I'm. I don't. It's hard for me to believe that I say 17 years, and it's like, damn,
it doesn't feel like
happened.
it.
She just started yesterday.
Right.
She's the prettiest thing and smartest thing.
I literally am like,
that door.
thank you. I learned from the best. But I literally am like, when did that happen? I was just, a reporter out in the field 5 minutes ago. And then I was anchoring one newscast. And then I started, all three. And then I got married and I had kids. And then, it's like, oh, that's where the time went, But I don't see myself going anywhere. I don't, I'm raising my children here. Like, being here has been a choice. Could I have left and gone elsewhere and gotten a job and do this somewhere else? Yes. My heart's here, though. My family's here. I'm here. I'm not looking to leave. I'm not looking to do anything else. It's my gift, like Darla said, you know. There are moments that it's like, Lord, am I doing what you intended for me to do on this planet? Is this it? You know? But then you find those moments that tell you, yep, this is it. And it's like, okay. And you settle and you get back to it. So no, I can't run through a list of telling you what my future looks like.
Well, then you'd be a fortune teller.
Right.
Or,
and
know,
I'm not.
Or psychic.
Right. That, you know, what I can tell you is I do my best with the days that I'm given, with the hiccups and struggles that come in those days, but also the joys too, as I hear my sons next door.
Can we knock on the wall? Hey, cut it out.
Right. So yeah, I'm here. I will be doing this as long as, you know, I can and I'm able, and I'm still passionate about it. And I still care, and I don't see that changing anytime soon for any reason.
That's good. What about you, Darla? You feel the same way?
I do.
Okay.
I am in disbelief that 30 years have gone by.
I know, it's
mean,
wild.
I still see myself as that ambitious 28-year-old with 2 small kids trying to make this thing work, because it was not easy, as it's not easy for any mother who has a career or a job and a family to, you know, to help support. So, yeah, I see myself.
But you did it. You did it well, girl.
Thank you,
well.
honey. Thank you. So yeah, I you know, I'm it's 30 years, and I have to remind myself of that, and I'm going, okay, 30 years, and can we do this, you know, a little bit longer? And thank God, you know, still here, still kicking.
Yeah. Well, with the time that has gone by, you ladies look great. Let me just put that out there. And what's crazy is, you know, as relatively new as developing Lafayette is, this is my 10th year.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been doing it for, it'll be 10 years in April, yeah.
Really?
And isn't it wild? I started it in 2012.
That's crazy. Look at you talking about growth and exposure, and you know.
I'm still a little confused though. I'm like, where did that time go? What happened? What happened between 2012 and now? Like, I have to like look back. I'm like, there has been a lot that happened, but there's still so much more that's ready. So you guys obviously have tons more future into the news, and news is still getting crazier and crazier by the day, obviously with the most recent stuff. And I'm going to date this podcast by mentioning this, but with the invasion that's happening in Ukraine, I mean, that is a messy situation. And with today's social media, especially TikTok and all that, which I feel like TikTok, that's where a lot of people get their quickest news now on social media, because, I mean, people can just open up their app and start filming live. And I've seen some stuff on there already. I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for another monumentous occasion in my life.
Exactly.
I read something
that
on social the other day. It was like, oh, a 3-year pandemic and now a war. Like, oh, we can handle it. You know, it's like,
yeah,
here we are again with something else. But
Betty White knew what was happening.
I've seen people say
Betty
that too.
White.
Betty was like, "Look, 2021 is enough. You can have 2022."
Yeah, she's like, "I've lived good. Check out."
Right. I am going to rest and not deal with any of what you all are about to deal with.
Rest in peace, Betty White. But man, I just don't know what to think about all the stuff that's going on. I mean, 2020 rocked a lot of people's worlds. I mean, to see all the riots and the protests and all that stuff that was happening, it was like, I mean, and then ammo sales went out of the roof. Like, you couldn't buy ammunition. Like, it looked like a pretty scary place in 2020. You know, and 2021 got a little bit better, but yeah, to be a younger person and to try to find your way in life, especially in the current climate.
You know, we didn't have this much information coming at you in every moment, all the time, constantly.
It's almost like troops on the ground.
Yes.
Of everyone's lives, of everything that is happening to everyone.
All over the planet.
All over the planet, every single day, every single minute of the day. And I've thought about that a lot, and especially with you mentioning it. That's exactly, it's an overload of a lot of negativity, like Marcelle said earlier. It's just a lot. And before we would get the pieces of news where media could go,
Right.
and report on the and it was always happening somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But now we get everybody's everything all the time.
And it shows the evolution. You know, you used to have to wait to watch and receive information at 5, 6, and 10, or you had to wait for the morning newspaper.
Yeah.
And now you get it in the palm of your hand in an instant. And it's hard because it's constant, but at the same time, it's beautiful because what we couldn't see before, because you had to be a photographer, you had to be there. We now can see because people are there. So it's about finding the balance of,
Absolutely.
you know, the beauty of being able to get it all the time, but also having to get it all the time.
Yeah. And I think what's good about your positions where you are is that you guys have other people, of course, working with you guys to take in all of this new influx of information and to decipher what seems to be the path through it all. So social media shows you the ugliest. It also shows you the most beautiful. Not everything is sunshine and rainbows every day, but not
the sunshine
everything.
and rainbows do exist.
Right. And not everything is doom and gloom. There's a path through it all. You just have to, weed through it. And so I think local news and news in general, I think I'm hoping that is what the thought process is to figure out what is the most important and unbiased view of what is being seen, because obviously with social media everything's biased at some point.
That's the scary part, because someone is taping something and showing you something. Are you actually really seeing what you think you're seeing? Because the responsibility on our shoulders is to explain what you're seeing through facts, through talking to the authorities, through talking to the eyewitness on the scene. But if you just have someone and they're holding a phone up and look at this, look at what's happening.
You're seeing it, but you don't know any of the context.
Exactly. You don't know the context.
And, the evolution of our process is obvious in the way our staff has changed. I mean, we have a digital team and a web team and a content team and a this team and a that team. And because we have to have people doing it for all of these platforms and making sure that what's coming in is being pushed out and sent in all the spaces and places that it needs to go.
And where it'll fit best.
And where it will fit best. Because not everything that is on air, not everything on web or digital is going to make air. And there are reasons for that. And it's not that we're being selective, but our newscaster, we are being selective. It's not that we're being biased in that selection, but our newscaster are a certain time frame that need certain elements. And some stories, we don't get those elements. We are broadcast television. We need a visual. There's a lot that goes into it that people just don't get. And, news anchors, reporters, photographers get a hard rap sometime. But at the end of the day, they're like everyone else and they're doing their job. A lot of people are learning as they're doing in this world, and they are too. So, next time you see a reporter out on the scene, a little grace. Yeah, a little grace would be nice.
Don't shout while they're trying to do a live shot. Then they have to do it over if they're recording it, if it's not a live shot.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to have spent some time with you two ladies. Whenever I thought about, doing this, I was like, the only two people that I know right now that I need to get on is Darla and Marcelle. I mean, that's the two faces that have been stuck in my mind for the longest. And I know there are other professionals in your companies that are just as well versed in what news is. But I grew up watching you, Darla, and then as recently as watching Marcelle, and just it's I've always wondered, I'm like, it'd be cool to see them out and about, like in the wild. And I want to say a long time ago, I might have seen you at a Sam's or something. I don't remember, but it looked like a news lady, like the news lady haircut at the time. I was like,
well, look,
okay.
I will tell you, if you see me on break, on my dinner break, which is like at 7:00, and I'm out like running an errand, I will look like the news lady. But if you see me before 2:00 or on a weekend, you might have to look twice because I'm not made up.
Yeah, no makeup, hair's pulled back in a ponytail.
Yeah.
People think I'm a kid until I turn. Oh, wait a minute, and you're shorter.
And then people will say, "Oh, I recognize the voice." They recognize the look.
Right, the voice.
Recognize the voice.
Recognize the voice.
All right. Well, look, it was a pleasure to have you on, and
so much, Ben.
yeah, I appreciate it, and it was fun, and
thanks to everybody who watches and listens. We appreciate that as well.
awesome. Well, guys, that is it, and I hope you have a great Friday, a great weekend, and be safe in the Mardi Gras. Don't get your car towed, and stay
Don't
safe.
become a news story. How about that?
Yeah.
Don't become a news story. Don't have Darla or Marcelle talk about the situation.
Because we will.
That's right.
All right. Well, that is it, guys, and I hope you have a great one.